All right. Well, hello. Happy football Saturday. How are you gentlemen doing?
Ah,
Fantastic.
We are
still
back.
here,
Would you say you're still here?
fighting another day, waiting on this big game, Georgia and Clemson.
Look, and you know what? Before we get started with our guest today, that's really the most important topic of the day. But there's another game. I got to get y'all's picks before we get started. So
All
Alabama,
right.
Miami.
Alabama.
They play
Alabama,
today.
Miami, Alabama.
Oh yeah, roll tide.
They
I
play
only
today.
like
I will not utter those words
Oh
unless,
no,
until they're ready to win another championship. Then fine, SEC. I'll say it. Till
but
then,
see,
nah.
y'all are the old type fans. I'm one of them fans that I like the numbers. Alabama's giving Miami 19. I don't think they can cover those 19.
I don't know now. Nick Saban is probably the best coach out there today, so he finds a way to
You
win.
giving me 19 points. I'm a major college team. I don't, I don't think you can beat me by 19. You might can beat me by 14 to 17. I don't think you can beat me by 19.
19 is a pretty big spread. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Too big.
Tonight, 7:30. I hope you don't get this answer wrong. But, Julius, I think Julius said Clemson. I don't know. Now I'm loyal to both, but
I'm a
tonight,
Georgia
yeah.
Bulldog. I'm a Bulldog fool.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think they can beat Clemson right now.
well, I mean, let me put it this way: I'll never bet against them, just because I've been a dog my whole life, and I think my mom would probably have some words for me otherwise. But yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go with my Bulldogs.
I
Yeah.
have betted against them in my life and still pulled for them to win, hoping I lost my money.
Well, three
I hear
things.
you.
Three things tonight that I think we haven't seen from Georgia in a while. You have a pretty tough defense, solid defense.
Mhm.
JT Daniels is a hell of a quarterback. I mean, that kid is phenomenal. And
Yeah.
then you got about the depth of running backs. You got about 6 or 7 running backs that can hit it. So, I mean, they're locked and loaded.
Shouldn't
Yeah,
you
our
would be
running
wearing? Shouldn't you be wearing a shirt that said half Clemson, half Georgia?
Nah, no, let
house
me tell you.
divided.
I'm right. I got to stay loyal to my team. I talked to Tevin about it. Tevin that was on our show a couple of
Yeah,
weeks ago.
young
He
man.
said, always go with the home team. So,
Okay, all right.
all right. So let's jump into while we're here today. We're back on the Watchdogs. Hello to all our viewers. We have a great special guest today, Fred Swann, who is running for the Georgia Commissioner of Agriculture. And so I think that's a good way to get started, Fred. If you can tell us about who you are, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah. So, like you said, my name is Fred Swann. I'm a Macon native, currently living in Tucker, and I have been in Democratic politics for over a decade. And I'm up through being the 8th Congressional District Chair for the Democratic Party of Georgia, which is, middle to South Georgia. That's the 8th District. And I was the 2018 Democratic nominee for Agriculture Commissioner, running with Stacey Abrams, and we got that close. And so I'm back at it again because I think that we can get over the top.
Oh yeah, I think even last year when Daniel and I were out there doing the public service commissioner thing, I mean, we're getting closer and closer. So
Yes.
I think, this might be the year that we crack the egg. So if you could, Fred, tell us a little bit and our viewers a little bit about what is an agricultural commissioner? What do they do? Just kind of give us an insight on what does that job look like.
That question, I really need to turn this into like a hat trick or something, because it's almost as if it's almost as if what is the agriculture commissioner not over? And that's one of the interesting things about this particular department. Of course, the agriculture commissioner promotes Georgia agriculture, our farms and farmers, and promotes it around the world. Also regulates farms, make sure that they are operating, as good citizens of their communities, in terms of environmental justice and whatnot. But there are so many other things that the commissioner does that people don't even know about. For example, we regulate supermarkets and grocery stores and license them. In fact, we can shut down a supermarket if they're not meeting proper safety precautions with regards to their refrigerators and freezers and temperatures and having not expired food and things like that, and fresh produce. We also, interestingly enough, we not only regulate large animals, that you'd see on a farm, but also small animals, all animals. We regulate anything with regard to animals. We've licensed veterinarians. We license your county animal control. We license shelters. We license small animal breeders, such as cat and dog pet breeders, the people who feed into like your little pet stores in the mall and whatnot. And another thing, there's so many things, I'm not going to get into all of them, but because there's weights and measures, there's all kinds of things. But one thing that people don't know about, but you would think they might, is that we also regulate your gas pumps. So like anytime you fuel up, if you look at your gas pump, there's a little sticker on there that says from the Commissioner of Agriculture, where somebody has inspected that pump to ensure that it is actually pumping out what the meter says. So basically the powers are whatever the Georgia legislature says they are. So they kind of just have pushed all kinds of things into the department, things that are kind of tangential, things you wouldn't even imagine. But so the powers of the agriculture department are pretty broad, and that kind of gets into why I'm running and what the things I want to do, because there are so many ways in which we can truly affect the lives of everyday Georgians that I don't think we've been doing enough of.
I mean, that was a great segue. If you could tell us a little bit about, a lot about your vision, a platform, whatever, we're using today. But tell us a little bit about what you want to do and where you envision the office going under your leadership.
Well, for one thing, the agriculture department has been very good for the large farmers, big ag conglomerates, factory farming, that sort of thing. And that's the only vision they have for agriculture. And I have a much more both broad but also locally focused vision. I want to see the department help with more small family farms. I want to help to grow them, make more of them, help new farmers get into the game, people who haven't been in the game. But that actually has a focus also on farmers from previously marginalized and under-resourced communities. I really want to see way more Black farmers in the game. We got Black farmers out there that are doing a great job, and they're fighting against tremendous odds because of all the things that have been done to derail Black farmers, such as bad loan policies at USDA for generations, literally, handing out loans to white farmers where they'll deny Black farmers due to credit scores, redlining, all kinds of things. We've also faced problems in the private sector to the point where there's even a case where they were sold bad soybean seeds. And that actually, they were told, hey, I guess you're just not very good farmers. Meanwhile, they actually have evidence. No, you sold good seeds to white farmers and bad seeds to Black farmers. And so I want someone who's going to I want to be someone who's going to work for marginalized communities, who knows the history and is going to get in there and bring and elevate those voices. Yeah, go ahead.
How many offices do you have besides in Atlanta?
I know about there are a few that are scattered throughout. Like, for example, I know about the one in Gainesville. I know that there are a couple other field offices, but most often people are going to look to their local county FSA for help. But I'd actually like to see more regional offices. And actually, I would like to be myself more on the road visiting places as the commissioner. Like, I kind of, I'm doing a lot of travel where it's safe due to COVID and in times when it's safe, doing a lot of travel, but I'd like to see the department the commissioner actually be on the road a lot more, visiting places and seeing what the local conditions are instead of just relying upon data and facts and whatnot. I mean, facts and data that's filtered out, and I think that way we can begin to have a more holistic vision of what's really going on in local communities, not just for Georgia as a whole. Agriculture is Georgia's #1 industry, which is fantastic, but too many people are not able to take advantage of that. They're not part of that industry. And I want to see more people as agricultural entrepreneurs throughout the state.
Yeah, I'd like to see y'all lower the gas prices,
If I had control over that, I certainly would do something about that. The only thing we can do is make certain that people are being fair with what they provide you at the pump. But there's a lot more that we can do. Like, for example, I mentioned grocery stores and supermarkets. We also regulate farmers markets. But there are too many places throughout the state that don't have access to fresh fruits, vegetables, and meats. Too many of these regions. They've been previously called food deserts, but we're not on our campaign using that term anymore because 2 reasons. One, deserts are natural. Food deserts are a result of bad policy that hurts these communities. And a lot of these communities are Black and brown primarily, although a lot of rural agricultural communities that aren't Black and brown primarily are also affected. But because of the predominance of Black and brown communities that are food deserts of these regions, we're actually using the term food apartheid to describe this. And it's a term that we got from California activist Olympia Osset, and we're grateful to her for bringing that perspective on it. It's a provocative term, but I mean to provoke outrage. And that way I want to see more small grocers in more communities. I want more of these small family farms taking Georgia-grown food and feeding it to these local communities. I want to see more farmers markets, more pop-up markets, there's even ideas of I've even heard some places where they do mobile markets, where they take a food truck, dump out all the kitchen stuff, just put a few fridges in there, go to various farms, pick up some locally grown stuff, and then create basically a pop-up market with that mobile food farmers market. And basically you'll have a region of food insecurity literally bloom for just a moment so that people can get the nutrition they deserve.
And I'm glad you mentioned food insecurity. It's one of the things I was interested in lately. I'm working with a nonprofit here in Savannah to develop a homeless shelter and to address food insecurity and hunger. How do you see that tying into your vision? Because in Georgia, especially here in Chatham County, we rank second in the most homeless people in the state. And so, we've got to do a better job as human beings of being our brother's keepers. So how do we solve that issue of food insecurity when you become commissioner?
Well, one thing is that there are too many areas that simply don't have access to it. And as I said before, we can actually, if we promote more small family farms that are feeding local communities, then we can actually create something of a market-based approach. But it's going to take intention. It's going to take resources. I want to create it within the office a director level desk whose sole focus is helping new farmers, especially from under-resourced communities, to get the things they need. Loans, grants. And if you're not quite there yet, then I want someone to walk you through it, kind of like a small business incubator, but for agricultural entrepreneurship. Really help people get what they need, not just point them at some stuff and say, there's stuff out there. Because there's tons of resources out there, but one, people don't know what they are. And two, they may not be quite ready to reach them yet. And they may need some coaching on how to get there. They don't just need to be pointed there and said, oh, I hope you get it. Because as we pointed out, especially if we're talking about Black farmers, they are systematically eliminated from a lot of these programs. And there's other laws on the books that we'll talk about that do have disproportionate impact on these communities. But also, we're going to need resources from the legislature. We're going to have to go to them and say, hey, people need help. We need help. We're going to need more boots on the ground. It's going to take an all-in approach and stop treating it like it's just something that happens or it's just something that exists, and start treating it like the real emergency that it is.
Okay, that sounds good. You ran last time, and he beat you by a little over what? 200,000? No, about 170,000 votes.
Correct. Out of a population, I got 2 million votes. So if I had just been able to get that, less than 1%?
Yeah.
Or 10%, like we were almost there in terms of vote totals. But yeah, we were very, very close.
Yeah, real close. And that tells you he could be beat.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I will say this, I will not be facing Gary Black in the general election.
Yeah, they got some new kid out of Osceola, whatever.
That's right.
They got put in this place.
Yes, there is.
Tyler something or something.
Yeah, and so we've got an open seat, so we don't have the incumbency issue to worry about. All we have to do now is try to get our message out as much as possible.
Got to work. We got the ground game. Got to be on point. That's what Robert is there for.
That's right.
The ground game got to be on point.
I don't know if you know Jay Jones, but you're not gonna get me in trouble with Jay Jones.
Oh, yeah. I know Jay, and I mean, you want to talk about, he's a real fighter, but also he calls balls and strikes, and he's going right down exactly what he's supposed to do with regard to the way he acts in a primary. So, I appreciate Jay and the work he's doing. I really feel like he's going to really turn things around in the first district for you guys.
Oh yeah. I'm right here in Chatham County, he's done a phenomenal job. It's just, sometimes people don't like to align with protocol, but you got to align with protocol for things to work. Trust the process. But
yes.
So
the rules are there. We don't always like the rules, but they're there. You don't like the rules, get into the game to help change the rules. But once the rules are established, and essentially once you're playing, you got to play by the rules, because everybody does, even if the rules are stacked against you. And that's kind of why I'm running, is because I feel like the rules are stacked against so many people, and so I got to get in there if I'm going to change it.
Oh yeah.
So how many people, not to call any of their names, have announced for the Democratic side?
I know of one other person in the primary, and there's another person who has filed an intent, but I've not seen any kind of declaration or whatever. So honestly, we knew we were going to have a primary. Once we flipped Georgia blue for Biden and we elected Senators Warnock and Ossoff, basically everybody now kind of sees this as their moment.
Right.
And, everybody get in. I'm a Democrat. We believe in the democratic process. Primaries are there for a reason. So it's more about, for me, getting my ideas out there versus, and comparing me versus other candidates, and letting everybody make their decision. But we have a real opportunity with this office. And I'll tell you, it's difficult to get Democrats to pay attention to the Department of Agriculture. But to me, it is one of the most important offices that'll be on the ballot for Democrats, in my opinion, because the Department of Agriculture touches nearly everything that Democrats and Georgians care about: healthcare, jobs, education, the environment, infrastructure. I can go on and on. And if we use the powers of this office to actually make those things happen, let's just touch on healthcare for a moment. We all want more healthcare. I'm an advocate of universal healthcare. That's all well and good, but if you are not getting the proper nutrition, then that healthcare just becomes sick care as opposed to well care. You can't be healthy if you are not getting properly nourished. And let's talk about education. These kids are sitting there in class, they're hungry, and even if they've gotten and the food they get from their school, their breakfast and their lunch, maybe the only meal some of these kids get. But even then, they may not have the proper nutrition, the proper nutrients in those meals. So even if they are not personally hungry, they are not as nourished, and that means that their educational achievement is going to be reduced, which is going to reduce the amount of all of their achievement throughout their life.
Mm-hmm.
That is why I see nutrition as a hallmark part of my campaign, one of the pillars that we're running on, because it really does touch everything. And like I said, we've got an open seat, no incumbent. So this is our best opportunity to take this seat.
Well, we need to do a lot of work to get this done, because it was a $58 million budget.
Yes.
Wow.
I'd like it to be more.
Well, okay, if I'm not going to put this shameless plug in, but the job pays about $122 a year.
I think it's more than that, but I think it's more than that last time I checked. But it's still not a lot.
No.
For compared to what some people are putting into this race. But that's not why you run for public office.
That's correct.
That's right.
But most times they say you pay a quarter of what the job is to get elected. So you pay over. You're gonna end up spending about 150 to get the job. A quarter of all 4 years. You pay one. You end up paying about 1 year's worth of worth of your salary to get the job done, because you can't go half butt in it. You got to go all out if you're gonna win it. It takes a hell of a ground game. It takes a hell of a media game. It takes a hell of a social media game. It takes a lot of voter contact, going to functions. Whoever that candidate is, most likely it'll probably be you. We want to be able to plug him in to whatever we're doing on the southeast part of Georgia.
Yeah, I love getting down there every chance I get. My wife is a big fan of Savannah, especially. So I take her on trips with me whenever we go down, and we take just a minute to get down there to her favorite restaurant, Fox and Fig, and have brunch. But yeah, we love getting down there, especially because there are so many active people fighting down there. It's like, it's work, but it's also refreshing to see how much activity you guys have going on.
That's her favorite restaurant?
That is her favorite restaurant.
Tell your wife to see me and Robert next time. Y'all come tell him.
Well, I certainly will. Hey, next time I'm down there, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, you tell her to make sure she see us.
Now, and that fits right in. What top 3 restaurants would you recommend, Julius? I mean, it fits right into the subject.
Well, yeah, he over restaurants? No, he over food safety.
Yeah, food. Yes, yeah.
Yes, I mean, yes. We don't directly control, the individual restaurants. Obviously, that's your county health inspector. But what food gets there and how safe and healthy it is, if it's Georgia grown, that's us.
Well, you over farming, so I'm eating a peanut right now. See, it's pretty good.
Very good.
No, it ain't good enough. We need a Democrat in that office.
Yes.
And we're going to
I agree.
And we need to see what we can do to get the Democrat, whoever that person is from this Democrat, we're going to go all out to do what we got to do to make sure that we do that. Any word yet on whether you heard anything whether Stacey's going to run for governor?
I spoke with Leader Abrams right before I announced, just to let her know. And she was very clear. She's not telling anyone what she's doing one way or another. Everybody will find out when they find out. And I was like, okay. But we're all very eager to hear her announcement, definitely.
Well, it's only 14 months to the election. She needs to do whatever she's going to do right now. You can't You can't jump in. She's made a name for herself, but you got to get in. If you're gonna get in, get in. Don't play with the people. They need to uh, uh, do politics a new way.
Well,
You don't get in late. You get in early.
well, I think given she has until March, and honestly, either way, I think she would make it an impressive entry. I'll tell you why. You got Warnock on the ballot. Then if
Mm-hmm.
she adds her name to the ballot, I mean, you're talking about momentum. And so I think,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's like the fourth quarter. If she waits until the fourth quarter and she's down by a field goal, she still has an opportunity to make a touchdown. I mean, for God's sakes, the Republicans can't even they got Vernon Jones out here thinking he's going to be the governor. What the hell going on?
And
He couldn't even be a
and
CEO of DeKalb County. So what in the hell make you? I don't know.
on the subject of Georgia Bulldogs, Herschel Walker.
I'm not.
Herschel.
As the old people would say, bless his heart.
I know. I really hate that he's thrown his name in the hat. Mainly because I have so many good memories of when he was a Bulldog and won us a national championship. And I really just hate to see that legacy tarnished by some quixotic run that's not going to succeed, because I have every confidence in Senator Warnock's ground game. Because one of the things I'll tell you about Senator Warnock that I kept my eye on, first of all, he's on the Agriculture Committee, so that's been something that I was really encouraged by. And he's worked so hard to try to get the debt relief for Black farmers.
Yeah.
But also, just when he was running, he had he was all over the state in rural communities. So many Democrats who run statewide, unfortunately, sometimes do have a tendency to kind of focus in on Atlanta, because we know that's our base and we can gen up a lot of votes there. But there's a lot of people doing a lot of great work who need to be encouraged. And I think that Senator Warnock really does that work. And I'm really can't wait to see what his ground game will look like now that he's a sitting senator, an incumbent, and has resources they probably didn't even have access to last time. But to that point, I am much more interested than what's going on with the statewide folks. I'm much more interested in what's going on locally in the various congressional districts and in the municipals and the people who are going to run for state rep and state senate. Because if you get somebody to run, especially for a state rep race, the municipals will be over by the time 22 comes up, but that does give people a chance to gin up excitement and maybe push them into 22. But if we're going to be serious about electoral politics, if you go in and you vote for a Democrat for state rep, you are more than likely going to vote all the way up the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to reduce our drop-off rate from people who are just excited about the governor, just excited about Senator Warnock, and they're just like, I'm going in and pressing this one button, and I'm going home. Now, if they're excited about their local state rep, they're really excited about them, they're going to be excited about the whole ticket. And so that's why, and the fact that local politics and local elections affect people much more than even any of these offices, I really want to see more people get involved in their local elections and hold their people accountable for what they did.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to get that rising star that people get excited about locally, unless that person is just a crusader. We have a few here, and one in particular that stands out.
Hold your applause. You don't have to go any further, Julius. Thank you.
Robert, you got 2 million votes. But we got another local woman that fits that bill that people get excited about. That when we hear it, a lot of people hate her because she's an advocate for the people, and that's Alderwoman Keisha Gibson Carter of Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
But but it's hard to get people motivated. You got Alicia Miller Blakeney. They are people representatives. They represent the
Mhm.
people, and they go out and they talk, they greet, they do what's necessary to get it done. You got Bernetta Lanier. These people are for the people. When you show people that you are for them, then they can get excited for you. But
Yes.
it's hard to get those candidates. Just like here in Pope Winfrey, I'm running for mayor. I went out and talked to the people, and it's there's that close personal contact that people love. You just can't put your name on a ticket and hope that you are somebody's savior.
Right.
I am excited that Herschel Walker is running. I really am, because he can't beat Warnock. He can't.
Yeah.
We don't want somebody else that's going to rally them like Buddy Carter. Buddy Carter probably would have beat Warnock, but
I don't know
Herschel
about
Walker can't.
I'm just not sure about that, but I do
Yeah, I
know
don't know
that
about
Buddy
that, man.
I do know that I
Yeah, I
saw
don't know.
I've seen Buddy in a few debates, especially during 18, and I will say yes, he's a formidable opponent, but
The money, the money, and the Trump running here to back him, and this
Yeah.
is still we can't get confused.
But
This
here's
is
the thing.
still a red state.
you know
here's
what?
the problem. But here's the problem. We got enough. We don't turn out to vote. And right here in the first district,
Correct.
we got enough
Yes.
people to beat Buddy Carter.
Oh,
We
this
just
is a
got to
blue
motivate
state.
those folks to get out to vote. That's the problem.
Yes.
This is a blue state on the books, but off the books, this is still a red state.
There's a phrase that Leader Abrams used in 18 all the time that I'm going to quote when people tell me it's a red state, because she said it all the time. Georgia is not a red state. It is blue and confused.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
And we've got to do, and I say this all the time, we've got to do a better job of helping people to understand why it matters to them. Why does this seat matter to them? Why does the public, nobody knew what a public service commission was. Nobody knows what these seats are. But when you realize, oh my God, this particular person who sits in this office impacts people that look like me who are farmers, or impact my of what I'm eating every day.
Yes.
That's a serious issue.
And it's not just what we're eating every day, but it's also our economic opportunities as well.
Right.
So there is one other piece I'd like, if you don't mind, I'd like to just transition a little bit into my platform, and that's with regard to cannabis. Cannabis is going to be
mind. You read my mind, because
cannabis is going to be a huge campaign issue.
Before you go, let me finish. And I tell people this all the time. Marijuana is not a drug. Go do your history, folks, and we can go over that later. But stop with the bullshit about this drug. I hate when people say that, but sorry, Fred, I just had to start with that.
No. Welcomed. Very welcomed for you to say. No, I am pro-cannabis all the way. Now, I do want to take just a moment to differentiate. So there's hemp and there's marijuana. Both are cannabis, but they're treated separately under the law. I've been working for the past few years, the legislature, business associates, advocates, and lobbyists trying to change our hemp laws, because they are very unfair, and they're actually detracting from what could be a huge industry for so many in various communities. This could be a cash crop, but it's not being. But we have bad legislation on the books that is meant to hold people back. Some people just want to keep hemp for a few big players. Some people don't want it at all because, again, they're like, that's drugs. But okay, I'll give you two examples. One, do you know how much it costs to get right now, and the fee keeps changing because of the legislature. Do you know how much it costs to get a processing permit for hemp? Now, this is if you want to make CBD oil, this is if you want to make rope or cloth or any of the 50,000 different uses hemp has. Do you know how much it costs to get a processing permit?
Probably a good $700 to $1,000.
I mean, it used to be $1,000. Still, it's at 25,000, but that's per year.
Ooh. Okay.
It used to be 10,000. Then it was 100,000. Then it was 10,000. Then it was 50,000. Now it's 25,000. Do you know how much it costs in Florida? $600. That's how much it costs.
but here's the thing. Economically, we are making stupid decisions around cannabis, and I'll tell you why. It costs to jail folks, right? So why would you put
Yes.
somebody in jail for cannabis, and now the taxpayers got to feed and put their lights on for free? That's crazy. And the only reason it's illegal is because back in the day, folks, go look it up. It was in competition with cotton because, like you said, hemp can be used to make clothing. So guess what they did back in the day? The only way to get rid of it was to make it illegal. No, you
And in Georgia, paper is a huge industry.
Yep.
And hemp is going to be a huge competitor with paper as well, and tech and all kinds of textiles. But we have an opportunity because when we chop down trees for paper, those trees take years and years to grow back. Hemp is a natural carbon. It's one of the best carbon sequesters we have. That literally means it takes the carbon out of the air and puts it in the leaves. And depending upon how you process it, it keeps that carbon. It locks it in, which means that unless you burn it and sends the carbon back out, it'll actually help to rejuvenate the environment. And you'll get years and years. I mean, seasons and seasons. You'll grow it. It'll suck in the carbon. You harvest it. You process it. You plant a new field. Whereas with trees, once they're gone, they take years to come back. And so once it's a fully fledged industry, it will outcompete trees for paper.
Yeah.
But there's another thing I wanted to kind of bring up about these laws. That's another thing among the many things that are wrong with this bill is that right now, if you want to get a license to grow hemp or a permit to process, you cannot have a misdemeanor drug conviction on your record. That means that if you were a 19-year-old and you got stopped with a dime bag in your pocket, for the rest of your life, you can no longer take advantage of this industry, period. Senator Kim Jackson, she sits on the Senate Ag Committee. She actually tried to get them to change that to a felony when they opened up the law yet again to try to make changes. She was like, well, let's look at this. Voted down along party lines, voted down. And that is a way in which, again, when I talked about policies that are on the books now and laws that disproportionately affect Black and brown communities, that's especially one because of the over-policing of these communities. And then we can get into, you're like, well, why make it illegal? You're spending all this money to house and clothe. Well, because the private prison industry lobbies to keep these laws the way they are. They make money off of how many beds they fill.
Yeah, they make money off
meanwhile, this is destroying entire lives. This is one. I keep talking about how it destroys lives. This is one concrete example of how it destroys a whole life gone in a flash, even when a person serves their term. But there's still that misdemeanor is on the records. So that means you made a mistake when you were 19. Charged for something shouldn't even be charged for, but we can not even get into that. And now you're in your 40s, you want to like help your family and start a new business or whatnot, and you're locked out of an entire industry.
That's by design, honestly. And I say it all the time. And this is nationwide. I think Oregon got it right. It's off topic, but we need to stop incarcerating people for nonviolent crimes, period. That we put too much money into a criminal system. Instead, we put more money into putting people behind jails instead of rehabilitating them.
Right. That's crazy. Honestly, you're right. And I applaud all the communities who have decriminalization ordinances in their communities. I mean, obviously, I'm for legalization. I think that, again, people should be able to make their own choices about their own bodies. That kind of down the line, honestly.
About that? But they won't wear a damn mask. Oh, we're gonna stop that. I don't even know, dude. I'm stop.
Well, yeah, you know what? And you know what? I will tell you that is one where I actually disagree with some of my folks. They're like, well, it's my choice to wear a mask or not. Okay, well, fine. That doesn't really fall in the same thing as you smoking something in your own living room and not hurting anybody. This is more like you driving drunk And you saying, well, was my body my choice to get behind the wheel? It's just as deadly. And they're going to say, oh, well, this is my body, my choice. Your body, your choice to like spread this to so many other people. I do think that's a little different. But we also need to be aware that there's a bill in the U.S. Senate, not a bill, but like a framework where they're going to create a bill that actually Senate Majority Leader Schumer has put out to deschedule marijuana, take it off the schedule. And something they did with hemp in the 2018 Farm Bill. That's why we have hemp in Georgia now. I saw one comment who said, aren't there farms with doing medical marijuana? Mm-hmm. Yes, a very few. And yes, aren't there some medical marijuana farms in the state? Yes, a very few. And it was those licenses are was done by a backroom deal. Nobody even knows the process by which people got those licenses, and it's not enough. And we can get in. I can talk about that for days. But the thing I want to focus on is the fact that when they descheduled hemp and sent it to the states, we're in the mess we're in Georgia right now, where folks either want to keep it for a few people or they don't want it at all. Marijuana is going to be 10 times that. So we need somebody in this office who was going to lobby the legislature and create regulations that's going to make sure more people have access to it. Because when they deschedule marijuana, they're going to send it to the states to regulate. And it's going to be the same thing if we don't make changes now and see that this is a statewide issue and something that we need to pay extra close attention to.
Totally. I mean, at the end of the day, we won't be a dead horse, but I've never seen oregano be illegal. I just want people to. I just want people to use their damn brain sometimes. Stop listening to what everybody tell you. Just sit back and think. For God's sake, it's a plant, y'all. It's a plant. What other plant do you know is illegal? For God's sake, we look. Check this out. Now, pharmacists can give out opioids, which is a plant. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not going to preach today.
Well, yeah, I mean, as long as, again, it's all about how they process it, because, you can grow poppies and sell poppies, and that's fine. It's just as a matter of, how are you selling flowers or are you processing it for heroin, but they still can grow it. Whereas marijuana, you can't even grow it. And it has medicinal uses. And and like you said, check your history. It has been used by indigenous peoples for centuries for medicinal uses. And yet, honestly, people who look like me are going to go to Washington and tell folks you can't do what your ancestors have been doing for generations, and we're going to lock you up for it.
Because you're in competition with my money. That's why.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You're in competition with money. You're in competition with my money after they ended prohibition for alcohol. Well, alcohol is going to compete as an intoxicant. You've got hemp. You've got all of these industries that are now threatened because someone's going to come in and take a share of their money. So they're going to make it difficult. They're going to make it as hard as they can. And we need people in office who are going to fight to protect the rights of individual Georgians to make their own choices and to take advantage. Once they find a method to tax, there won't be any problems with hemp and marijuana. I agree. I say grow it, tax it. Let's spend that money on drug rehabilitation and to increase healthcare, especially mental health care resources in rural communities. We have a mental and also physical health care crisis in Georgia's rural communities. And if we took that money and applied it towards actually healing people instead of locking people up, we would change the face of Georgia. We would change the lives for hundreds of thousands of people.
Hold on, I'm going to Google something really quick. I'm going to tell y'all a figure in 1 second. Okay. Colorado was one of the first states to do this. Mm-hmm. I want to see the income, and I know it's a lot. I just can't remember it. Okay, here it is. In Colorado, the state's legal marijuana sales revenue, what the state made from legalizing marijuana, $1 billion, just over $1 billion.
Wow. Think of what we could do with that.
Now we stuck on stupid.
Right. And you think that Colorado could have the market that we have? Georgia's agriculture is our number one industry. We have so much great soil and hundreds of thousands of hectares of open land that has a ton of sunshine. We could do so much growing this plant to help our communities.
Mm-hmm.
And literally it'll be one way in which communities can thrive and grow their way to their own freedom and become self-determining.
So Fred, what's another part of your platform that you really want our viewers to hear about?
There's one, I mean, obviously there are so many things that we could talk about, such as impacts the environment from concentrated animal farming, animal feeding operations, or CAFOs, and regulating those. And we can get into that if you want to, or animal control and how we have an animal welfare crisis in the state with regard to illegal breeding operations and the abuse that animals sustain throughout the state. But the thing that I've really made like the fourth big thing I talk about is farm labor rights. Farm laborer rights. Farm laborers have some of the least rights in the state of Georgia. And that includes not just people who are in the fields, but also people who work in our plants, especially like the poultry plants, like in Gainesville. I've actually been working with a group, Georgia Familias Unidas out of Gainesville, who have been working to bring to light the abuses that go on in those plants. I don't know if you guys heard about it, about the deaths that it recently occurred in one of the Gainesville plants, but there were 6 people who died due to an industrial accident. They tried to cover it up, but because there were so many families that were impacted, they were able to stand together and say, no, you are going to take care of us. And eventually got OSHA to go in and investigate, but OSHA was pretty slow about it. But if it's 1 or 2 deaths or injuries or mistreatment in the field or in a plant, a lot of these people are Latinx. A lot of these people are either, if they're in the field, a lot of them are H-2A visas, or they may even be undocumented workers. And both of those situations, that worker is at the mercy of their employer. I'm sorry, but if you're an undocumented worker and they knew they were undocumented when they hired them, they are not fooled. They know. And they hired them because they're undocumented, because they can abuse them. Because I'll tell you a story. There was a plant worker who his wife was killed in a plant accident, but the plant has said that she was fine, she went home and she died at home, so it wasn't a workplace injury. On the way to the hospital, he had a supervisor sitting in the car with him, and that supervisor literally convinced him, if you go to that hospital, you say that this was a workplace incident and they investigate it, the next thing they're going to do is call ICE.
Oh my God.
And now he has to say, okay, if my wife dies and I'm deported or I'm sent to a detention center or something like that, now my children are orphans. And he had to make that choice. And I'm telling you, I'm not naming any names because this person still lives in fear of what repercussions that may happen to him. And he can get no justice because literally he has no power. That's why I want there to be in the Department of Agriculture an anonymous tip line where any agricultural worker can call, report abuses. We will investigate. We will work with OSHA, try to get them off the stick to do something about it. We're working with other activists in the field to try to make certain that they know that there's someone who they can trust, who's not going to call ICE, not going to work with immigration, who believes that if you work, especially if you are the person who's providing us with our meals and our clothes and basically the backbone of Georgia's entire infrastructure and economy, you are going to be protected, period. I mean, we can also talk about the fact that we don't even have any protections for like or any regulations around heat protection, that state level regulations. Saying basically how much potable water do they have to provide for people, or do they have to provide shade or sufficient breaks for people so they don't get a heat stroke or something. And these people are basically abused, especially the H-2A visa folks, because again, they're at the mercy of their employer because if they report some sort of workplace violation and they're here legally, but that visa can be torn up and thrown away, and back you go wherever you came from, just because you stood up for yourself.
Let me ask you a question about community gardens. I mean, we've seen a number of those throughout the nation, and I don't know what your thoughts are about that. But one of the things, I've seen here in Savannah, a few community gardens, and how they serve a number of purposes, bringing communities together. Like you said earlier, there are areas of certain cities or towns that don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, so you have access now. So what are your thoughts about maybe implementing a program or grants or something to increase and enhance community gardens throughout the state?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to do that. I'd love to work with groups that want to form a community garden, help them with maybe site selection for their place, help them find, if they want to like go on a larger scale, and help them find the money they need and the resources in order to develop these community gardens. But these community gardens can actually grow into something bigger. I don't know if you've heard about the burgeoning agrohood movement. Where basically it's an urban agriculture model where it's essentially community-based agriculture, kind of like a community garden, but on a larger scale, where it's almost a co-op, where the community comes together, grows things. Yes, they do feed themselves, but they also sell their products. So they can have food products, cash crops, etc. And these things can actually grow not just from community gardens, which are great, but you can actually develop them into even more than they were, in ways in which, again, communities feeding themselves, communities creating economic opportunity for themselves.
Makes sense. Julius, what you got over there? Put them peanuts down. Yeah, he don't eat them bag of peanuts.
Oh.
I forgot I was mute because I had a call came in from Atlanta, so I forgot I was muted. But you're in charge of regulating and promoting the agriculture industry.
Correct.
So, what do you promote? Do you promote just the farms and the produce industry that we have to sell, or is it what part of it do you promote? Because it seems like that would be like the Chamber of Commerce or something.
Well, to some degree, but we also help with international trade as well. Like when we grow things, and they're selling them all around the world. Georgia is part of the whole America is the breadbasket of the world concept, definitely. And that is why agriculture is the number one industry, because we are so involved with trade. So it would involve, promoting trade around the nation, but we're going to help rebuild a lot of trade agreements and alliances that Trump destroyed during his trade war with China. Because, basically once China stopped buying our soybeans, they had to go to other places. Now they have exchanged those trade agreements and trade relationships with others. And so they're not going to go back and be like, okay, well, I have a relationship with one person, but now that Georgia's here, I'm going to break off this agreement I had with somebody else. We got to find new revenues that the president thoughtlessly destroyed in his, honestly egomaniacal attempt to bring China to heel, I guess.
Like these peanuts here that,
Peanuts, cotton, soy, but also blueberries. Blueberries are a huge part of Georgia's industry. And chicken. We have the chicken plants. Broilers are, I think, our number one animal product. We also have, cows and pigs and peaches. Obviously, Georgia's a peach state. And we have people who I've met with our peach growers and packers, and they ship to California and all over the world. So there is an international component to this office where we have to help about the promoting trade deals with other people on behalf of our larger commercial operations. I'm not trying to destroy our commercial operations. They are part of the backbone of our economy. I just want them to be better corporate citizens and better citizens of their communities.
Okay. Okay. That is good. Sounds like you got a plan and you were there before. So would you be open to sharing ideas and a forum with whoever else might be running on this side of the ticket?
Well, I will say that I'm open with sharing. Right now we all of us have to run, and so we need to basically run on, in my opinion, our ideas. But certainly, if someone else is elected, if they want to work with me on the issues that I've raised, if they raise other issues, I'll be more than happy to share the contacts I've made in various areas. Obviously, because this isn't about some egotistical, attempt to just get my face up there. This is about real issues. I mean, let's just face facts. Once you see the problems, you can't unsee it. And this is about changing lives, period.
Okay. So if we can call you back and have you on with one of the other Democratic candidates, if you want.
Sure.
Let me try
a debate.
A debate. Stop trying to sound be smart, Nate.
They don't like to
try. I'm just saying.
They don't like to call them debates these days. They call them.
They like to call them forums. Yeah, they like to call them forums because that sounds more. that does sound more like we're
Less
just like
combative.
airing ideas and you know what? Honestly, that is what I prefer. I don't think that I don't think our politics, especially we're all Democrats. I don't think our politics should be so combative. I do think that we are all trying to accomplish the same thing. It's just a matter of who everybody thinks is better equipped to get the job done.
Yeah, because
I do have a bone to pick with Georgia voters. Now, based on my debate performance last year with the Atlanta Press Club, I kicked ass. Y'all should have voted for me. But anyway.
Hey, I did. I voted for you.
2 million people voted for you.
I voted for you.
2 million people voted for you.
But I mean, if you go over that debate alone, I mean, both of them were coming at me. And I was like Muhammad Ali in there, Julius, man. I was tearing it down.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it. We have to do a great job as well of getting out our vote of people who aren't voting, who feel disenfranchised by the process and honestly by the party and feel like, well, what have you done for me lately? Then that's a fair cop. And so it is up to us to get out and say, okay, but here's what we are doing. Here's what we have done. Here's the fights we have fought for you recently. And here's what we plan to do that's different from everything that's been done. But honestly, it's going to be, Georgia's blue and confused. We have the votes. If we will just get them out, encourage people to vote, and show people how these things truly impact them. And I'm just going to tell you, Robert, I don't think people watch these debates. Not the average voter. I agree. I think you did excellently. I think that people are going to hear more. They're going to listen more to a neighbor that tells them, this person is on something different, and you need to listen.
I have a friend named Jimmy J. Jimmy J likes to be humorous and stuff like. I think Julius knows Jimmy J. And so I just gotta have a little humor now.
Jimmy J, Chad, Jimmy J, all those guys, them guys there.
Jed Clampett.
So as Julius pointed out, our ground game is going to be key for all of these elections.
Yeah, because
it's also going to be about. No, go ahead.
We got to combat their money game.
Yes.
No, not even that. The voter restriction stuff.
Yeah, and the voter restriction part.
But this is elections have consequences.
Yeah.
And the voter restriction stuff is a consequence, but we also have opportunities. And I hope people start seeing the opportunities that we have. And yes, obviously, I'll need money to run around just as much as everybody else. So if anybody wants to go to fredforgeorgia.com and make a small donation, we would appreciate it. Every dollar goes into the gas tank to run around, or literature to hand out to people to tell them about our ideas, or yard signs to show support. But fredforgeorgia.com.
FOR.
FOR. Fred for Georgia. All words, all one word.
Okay. Sounds good. And so, Fred, we'll give you the last words today. Anything you want to tell the viewers, voters, how they find you, of course, the website. Anything you want to tell them?
Yeah, obviously social media, facebook.com/Fred for Georgia, Instagram @Fred for Georgia, Twitter @Fred for Georgia. We tried to make it as easy as possible for folks to find us. I think we're going to try and actually start getting a TikTok up here soon enough to get short videos about agriculture and agricultural policy. But if I could just, again, stress to people, do not sleep on this race. This is one of the most important races of the statewide on the ballot, because again, it touches everything that we want to accomplish. And if Leader Abrams is not running for governor, we have Governor Abrams. She's going to need somebody in the agriculture department to help rural Georgians as well.
That's right. Well, Fred, and all this full transparency, the Honorable Jay Jones will be upset if I didn't say this, but if there are other candidates out there, we're going to definitely bring them on. But at some point, we definitely will have, like Julia said, all of the Democrat and maybe Libertarian. I'm not going to get in trouble, but we'll say that. Just come on. And they're friendly. We're not going to need Libertarians. The GOP, I don't know about y'all. Y'all need some help, but we'll leave it alone.
We won't be putting no Republicans on here, but we'll be.
Well, I will say this one other thing is that I consider the agriculture department's issues to be, I say it all the time, they're not left and right, they're right and wrong. And to that point, I actually have a lot of libertarian and Republican supporters who are crossing lines for me because they're like, no, I believe there are too many regulations that are hurting small business and small agribusiness. So this is a race where we can actually reach across the aisle without giving up on our democratic principles very easily.
That's it. All right, Julius, any last words before we head out?
No, that's about it from me. Y'all stay tuned. We got a lot on the plate in the next coming 14 days, and we hope to have Mr. Swann back so we can engage him again, so he can, especially when we start having these functions. If this COVID variant doesn't mutate into a monster.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And if you're having events down there, please reach out. I'm more than happy to come down. I love your area. We actually were in Brunswick a couple of weeks ago. That was a great event that Glenn County Dems put on.
Glenn County, they rock and roll down there.
They showed out. I'm gonna tell you, it was pretty good. But yeah, please let me know. You can reach out on social media. Tell me about your events. I'm filling up my calendar now, trying to hit the road, trying to hit all 159 counties if we can.
That's it.
All
right. So if you call me between now and 9 o'clock, you will not reach me because I am going to watch Alabama beat the hell out of Miami. And then Georgia will be taking on Clemson. So
go Dogs.
That's right. It. Go Dogs.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for having me. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. So next week, same time, same place.
You got it, Robert? Or you want
yeah. I was all excited about the conversation, but yeah. All right, y'all.
Thank you. Goodbye.
All right.